Hello, hello. By golly, where has the time gone? Feels like a blink ago we were wishing you a very Merry Christmas and looking forward to the new year. And here we are, already halfway through the month of January. Happy 2024, and a very warm welcome to this, another edition of our Coaching Hour podcast. As we've said, it's not only a podcast, I guess you could call it a vodcast. We are streaming live on Facebook as well. So a very warm welcome to you if you are watching this right now on Facebook, or perhaps watching it after the event. You know how it is with technology these days. You can watch anything, anytime, from anywhere. So wherever you are in the world, a very warm welcome to you. Hello, my name is Paul Rotherham. It's wonderful to have you back as we kick off 2024 with Coaches Network South Africa. I'm joined by three lovely ladies. Two of them will be familiar to you because we have Mary and Marika. Hello, ladies.
Hi, Paul.
Hello.
Nice to see
Everybody
you.
good into the new year?
Very good.
Absolutely.
You can see my hair has changed. I'm ready for a new me, new year. You see?
Damn, so that's what I missed out on. I didn't do my hair. If I'd done my hair, I would perhaps be better positioned to enjoy the year. Mary, did you do your hair? Yours looks the same.
I didn't comb it.
I can tell.
Nice. Wow, I like it.
My natural curls. I thought I'll let it just behave.
Perfect. Yes, behave. This is a family show. Ladies, lovely to have you with us. Thank you to wherever you are in the world as well for joining us for this, the very first installment for 2024. We've got a wonderful guest lined up for you as well. Marika, I'll allow you the introduction honors.
We do. Thank you so much, Paul. Today we have Kerry Rudman, and I'm very excited about today's topic. It's something that I guess myself and Mary is very passionate about, and it's all about the brain. And Kerry's going to talk about neurofeedback. She's the founder and owner of Brain Harmonics Group, a neurofeedback practice to balance your brain and life. So I'm very excited about this topic, Kerry. But before we get into that, please give the listeners and everyone watching a brief background of who is Kerry and how did you get into the practice that you are today.
I think I got into it, well, I think everything is meant to be, but it felt like it was just by mistake. I actually just went for a session for myself about 18 years ago, and I was so astounded by the results. I just knew that this is something that I had to do. I had a different career completely, and as soon as I experienced how quick these changes were, it was just meant to be. So I've been doing this for 18 years, and we now have grown nationwide.
So what is neurofeedback? Just as I met you online today for the first time, and being a coach myself, I feel that, neurofeedback is obviously, well, it's equipment, right? Maybe you can firstly tell the listeners, what is neurofeedback?
Sure. So we use EEG electrodes that we put onto different parts of your head. It's kind of like taking a photograph of your brain. We get to see the pathways that your brain is stuck in, or combinations of different pathways that we call imbalanced, meaning your brain's going a long way around to fetch certain information. From that assessment, what we do is we put the electrodes back in those same places, and we play your brain back to you as sound. So you actually hear your brain in 1/10,000th of a second. And because it's so quick, it's just like your brain is seeing itself in a mirror. So if your brain is really busy and you're thinking all the time and you can't get it to de-stress in any way, when your brain can hear that busyness in places where it shouldn't be, like at the back of your head, your brain will then start to self-regulate, to calm itself down. And your brain gets certain reward signals and inhibit signals to coax it into a balanced pattern. And the easiest way to explain it is it's like through traumas and stresses in life, we learn to stand on one leg. When we do brain training, we teach your brain what balanced is. And once you've felt two legs, it's very hard to go back to one again.
Wow.
So what does our brain sound like? That's very interesting. You turn it into something that is audible. How do we sound?
Yeah. So each frequency in your head is paired with a certain note. And as your brain pulses in each frequency, it hears the correlated notes. So you really are hearing a tune. Everybody's tune is a little bit different. But because it's so quick, your brain recognizes each note as being itself. And that's how your brain can hear itself. So there's no input into your head whatsoever. It's a feedback system where your brain is hearing how it's pulsing.
And what would happen? Here's one for you, Kerry. What would happen if you had to play the sound of someone else's brain to you, to yourself, to your brain?
It's it takes a little bit of time, but it freaks my brain out because my brain tries to regulate the sound that I'm hearing because I've done neurofeedback on myself a few times. When I hear somebody else's brain, I start getting a headache because I keep trying to change the frequency. So if I have any kind of imbalance, like I'm not sleeping well or I'm feeling depressed, and I record that, and then I start to correct those patterns. If I hear it in 2 weeks' time, I'm hearing my brain in a imbalanced state, which is not good.
Yes. Wow. It's very fascinating because, I mean, being myself and Mary being coaches as well, I think what I love about this process is when you're dealing with someone as a human being, you don't always pick up on certain things within the brain that this system, I guess, can pick up on. Yeah, if you can just maybe elaborate on that.
Absolutely. So we look at a lot of different things. So we look at things like depression markers on 4 different levels, and we look at your internal happiness. So a person might feel depressed and go see a doctor and get certain SSRIs to make themselves feel better. But if they haven't looked at their serotonin levels to look at their internal happiness, they may not be fixing the whole problem. Our brains do crazy things. They also lock into not letting go of certain pathways. So sometimes we can do coaching, we can do all sorts of processes, but because your brain's still locking into a safety mechanism, it won't let go of that previous pattern until you can teach it to let go of the locking, which is just holding on for its own safety. So there are a lot of different pathways and patterns that we can see. Even things like Alzheimer's, we can pick up 5 years before people know they're going to have an issue. So a lot of people have said, there's nothing wrong, everything's fine. And then a year later, they'll come back and go, oh, you were actually right. So it's good to pick something up before it becomes a problem later on and things have degenerated.
Yes. And I see you, Mary, do you have a question?
Can Alzheimer's and dementia be reversed?
That's the hardest question because we can't see how much degrading has happened. So it all depends. We need to do the assessment because we can see the actual level. But it depends on how long the person's had it, how severe it is. So it's always, the quicker we can get to that person, the better. In the worst case scenario, we can slow it down. In best case scenario, we can get it back up again.
Sure.
And Kerry, just to understand the process here then, I would come in and I would see you and you would essentially scan my brain, I'm assuming initially. You would get kind of a standard reading of what it looks like. And from that reading or from those sounds, you would then be able to pick up areas that perhaps need treatment, inverted commas. Am I understanding the process correctly there?
Correct. So we look at every single lobe in your whole brain, and we pick up exactly how your brain is pulsing at each spot. So it's almost like a photo of all your pathways. Once we see that, we tailor make a plan for you on, firstly, the imbalances that we see, but also what it is that you would like to focus on. So you might say, I don't really care about sleep, but I really want to feel happy. Then we can tailor make a program to just boost your internal happiness if that was needed. So all the training that we do is specific to what each person needs. And when we do training, what we're doing is we're teaching your brain how to hear itself correctly and regulate. And we do the process a couple of times so that we build new neural pathways in your brain. And we make them strong enough that your brain won't go back to all previous patterning.
And how do you do the treatment? What is it that you are doing to change those patterns and that photograph, as it were, of the brain? How do you do that?
So all through sound, as your brain hears itself, if it's doing the correct thing, for instance, if your brain is calming down when you have your eyes closed, you're going to hear certain reward sounds. And your brain is like a child. It hears the reward and goes, oh, wait, I want more of that. So it'll keep trying. And it's just really like operant conditioning. The more your brain hears that this is the right thing to do when I close my eyes, the more it will start to grow that new pathway. When your brain does the wrong thing, you will hear inhibit sounds, and your brain knows that that's not the right thing to do. So it will keep going back to reinforcing the good. And just from feeling what balanced feels like, your brain doesn't want to go back to the reverse again.
And I'm guessing this is one of those things where I know my wife experiences it often. Whenever she goes for her back treatment, she goes to a chiro or physio, or just somebody who does really good massage. It's only once she's had the treatment that she realizes how out her back was and how much in pain and how tense and stressed she was. For a week or two leading up to that, she was just living with it. I'm guessing this is perhaps the same, where only once you've had this treatment do you realize, whoa, I'm so out of whack here. This is a problem.
Paul, for a lot of people, I've had people who tell me that they are happy and they're fine and everything works. And then they do the brain training and come back and go, oh, is that what happiness feels like? That they actually didn't know. Or sleep quality. People think that they sleep. And then when they actually check on a sleep monitor and they see how bad the quality actually is, once they've experienced this, they are quite shocked. Yeah.
How long does this session take? Do you have to
So
do
for adults,
yeah.
the assessment takes an hour, and the training can be anything from 1 to 4 hours in one day. For children, we train them a lot slower. For adults, we can train up to 4 hours in a day. And on average, people will train anywhere from 12 hours to 24 hours. So what we do is we do that training within 10 days so that we can make the new pathway strong enough that you don't go back to stressing or not sleeping or depression or whatever it is. So it is quite a quick process compared to how long it takes to get to that point. For some people, 4 hours feels like a lifetime because they're not used to doing nothing or being still. But it really is relatively quick.
And is treatment or training, as I'm hearing you refer to it, you're saying training, not treatment. Is this a simple case of sitting with a pair of headphones on, sitting in a lazy boy and just doing nothing?
Exactly,
Wow.
yes. So for children, we will give them things to do. We'll teach their brain how to think in pictures while their brain is activating beta. So we give them learning techniques and we show them how to remember things. For a lot of adults, especially people who need to de-stress, they will sleep right through the whole training. We tuck them into the lazy boy, we give them their headphones, we give them certain visualizations and tasks to do. So things like coaching, they could do their coaching steps while their brain is doing the balancing in the correct way, which is quite beneficial.
Okay,
Sitting for 4 hours or more doing nothing. That's my kind of training.
Yes, I like that. So Kerry, so it won't interfere with the process if one takes, go through a visualization while your brain is listening to itself.
Not at all. I feel like the visualizations and coaching and process work is the software and we're busy with the hardware, and the two together are incredibly beneficial.
Wow, that's fascinating. And I see you work, like you mentioned, with kids and adults. What are the things that you mostly deal with children?
Definitely a lot of ADD and ADHD, learning disorders and learning problems. Lots of trauma, especially after COVID. The amount of anxiety that we're picking up in children as young as 7, 8 years old is immense. A lot of depression with children. Children have got a lot of social anxiety right now, also related to COVID. So definitely a lot of traumas. There are a lot of children who are not sleeping either. I think they're picking up a lot of what's going on from their parents and they're feeling stressed. So they're really not, if you're not sleeping, you're not going to be focusing at school.
Yes.
So it's a vicious cycle.
100%. And with adults, I quickly read through or scanned through your website, and you've mentioned that stress and trauma, the brain develops certain coping strategies that is unconscious. And what type of coping strategies would that be? And then, or maybe some examples that you have.
Sure. So there really are two main ones. So the one is freeze. If you've been through a trauma where you felt abandoned in any way, if it's real or perceived, it throws your brain into freeze as a coping strategy. So then you find it really hard to say no to people. You find it hard to deal with confrontation or threats. So you hold a lot in and you deal with a lot. Most people who are in freeze will complain to everybody they know, but not the person who's creating the issue. So I find that boundaries are a very big problem for people in freeze.
Yes.
And it can hold you back in the world. You can have amazing ideas, but you don't action them because freeze keeps telling you that the world's not safe. And then the complete opposite of that is fight or flight. So if you've been through any trauma that's made you feel like the world's not a safe place, or made you really, really angry, that throws you into fight or flight, where you become quite reactionary. So you say what you want to say and walk away and feel bad. You feel terrible afterwards, but you don't have that reaction time to think about your response before you react. And if you're in fight or flight, you're also on guard all the time. You cannot relax because you're always looking over your shoulder to see the next thing that might go wrong. And people in fight or flight have plans and backup plans and other backup plans. So it's really exhausting to live like that. And then you have people who are in a combination of both. So they get really angry, but then they hold it in and they don't say anything. And then they want to go back and have the fight, but then the freeze holds them back again. So that's exhausting emotionally as well.
Sure, fascinating. And I really love this approach. I mean, we've had specialists in supplementation for that part of it. Then there's the coaching, but this is physically working on the brain. And I love the holistic, approach of not only looking one-sided, at a problem, and actually looking at what is the brain saying and how the brain is wired, and that we can rewire that actually, and that there's technology to do it is fascinating. I mean, they always say happiness comes from within, and it almost seems to me like this can give you that boost to unlock that inner happiness. I love what you've mentioned about the happiness, not even knowing what happiness really feels like. And I love the fact that there's technology that can unlock it, so I don't have to try so hard to do it with my conscious efforts. So I'm definitely booking a session with you. I don't know about everyone else, but I will
I would love
absolutely.
to.
Yeah, I'm going to test it out. And me, my kids, if I can get my husband, I'm definitely doing that.
Kerry, you know what I found really
Brilliant. You
intriguing?
just buy your husband a gift voucher and then he can't help but go.
Oh, that sounds perfect.
Kerry?
Sorry, Mary.
So what I found really intriguing was when you mentioned frequency. You know, frequency and energy and stuff like that is something like taboo to people who don't understand it. And I found it so intriguing when you mentioned frequency, because it's our broadcast, isn't it? Can you elaborate
Absolutely.
a little bit about
The
that?
whole world works off frequency. Yeah. Everything in the world works with frequency. Our bodies, our brain waves, everything is frequency. So it's all related. And I believe if we're doing it through the brain and a frequency it understands, it affects and filters through to everything else. Definitely.
I found, you know, through my experience with people, they think that this, and I'm generalizing, I'm not saying everybody, but there's some specific people in my family that don't even believe that I don't believe this energy is nonsense. You know, and you're saying that the frequency, that everything is has a frequency, is profound, and I would love everybody to even watch this podcast to get an understanding of it.
Absolutely. I in my brain, I can't imagine how anybody could not think that everything is frequency. There's so many physicists out there doing experiments that are proving it right now. It makes total sense to me. And when my brain hears itself, it balances so quickly because of that frequency. I really do get it. But I don't think you have to believe that to do something like brain training. You would still get the benefits if you believed it or not.
And I think that's the beauty of it. There's equipment that can actually measure those frequencies, translate that into sound. And I'm guessing because neurofeedback is something that is across the world, there's a lot of research, and scientific research done on this process, which is like, I love the scientific base of it and the research and that's gone into it. So thank you so much, Kerry. I really enjoyed our conversation. And if anybody wants to get hold of Kerry, we'll put your website link also in the description. Perhaps, if you can just tell people where they can get hold of you before we wrap up our session.
We've got offices nationwide. We're throughout Joburg, Midrand, Durban, Cape Town, and New Zealand.
Awesome. Thank you, Kerry.
And that website again, for those who perhaps joined a little late, where do we actually find that, Kerry? What's the URL?
I'll put a website link in the description. So thank you very much, everyone. I really enjoyed our conversation today.
Thank you very much, Kerry. Ladies, thank you. We'll leave it there because I see Kerry's connection has slowed down again. But thank you for joining us for this, the very first episode of the Coaching Hour for 2024. And we're really looking forward to bringing you some incredibly informative and interesting and insightful content this year. If you are in the coaching world and you feel that there is a contribution that you can make to this, please make contact with Mareka. You'll see all her details and the contact details for the Coaches Network South Africa group on Facebook. Very easy to find, Coaches Network SA. And we look forward to hearing from you. Thank you for joining us. Cheers for now.